Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Nadi Digital Ekonomi Malaysia. And after probably about a 2-month hiatus, we are going to be talking about Digital Nasional Bhd. Back to back now. I think we spoke about it also earlier. But that's because there are some developments. But by the way, with me is my colleague Dzof Azmi. And we're going to kickstart this week's show with Dzof taking the lead, talking about this, government being firm with the deadline for 5G, which I like a lot. Dzof?
Well, it comes from the revelation last week that the so-called big four telcos in Malaysia, Celcom, Digi, Maxis, and UMobile, have made requests that they would like to have controlling interest of 51% in DNB. And what happened this week was the Communications and Multimedia Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said that although they are yet to study the request of the telcos,
very surprised at that. Yeah.
The government is firm on not allowing any telco to have a high stake in DNB. And he specifically said, and this is a quote, "I am not going to create a monopoly and make a certain company bigger." Now, Karam, if you are a football fan, you know that when you do these transfer deals, you can do it quietly and just settle business easily, or you can do it with a lot of noise in the press and a lot of speculation, right? Do you feel that having this much revealed to the public at this stage of negotiations shows that there are problems in negotiation, fundamentally?
That's a really good question, Dzof. And I agree, yes, it does show there are problems. And I think the government seems to be confident that it will have the voice of the public via social media, the noisy minority on social media on their side. And interesting that the minister says, right, he's not going to allow this monopoly, and that he's very serious about making sure 5G kicks off and goes well. So I think this is a sobering, reflection point, or for the big four, who collectively seem to want to own at least 51%, because even the government, they said that they're going to give them 70%, right? When they said them, meaning all the players. So clearly,
yes,
these four, and like I said before, I think there is merit to these four saying that we deserve a 51%. I do believe there's merit for them to say that, because they have put in the most, and they're going to keep doing it. They're going to put in the most effort, and they're going to invest the most to fight for a market share. So which is why they're asking for that. So again, I'm just going to end it at that, and let them try to work out a fair compromise, and it may be that they don't get their 51% right away, but if they show good value and good intentions, right, and push our 5G, as fast as possible, maybe the government can say, look, okay, after 3 years, if we see that you guys are really doing a good job, or even after 2 years, right, we can give the four of you, right, that 51%. You do something, well, clawback or whatever, right, from the existing, all 7 of them, the parties owning that 70%, you can do clawback, or the government can say from their percentage, their ownership, we will give some back into the pool and for you all to divide. So there is still room to play to do this, but you must demonstrate, good intentions that move the national agenda forward. And I think then the big four can probably get what they're asking for, but not just right away. So maybe we'll just end with that and move on to some other stories, because otherwise we can go for a long time on this, right, Dzof? Unless you want to have one more closing comment on this.
Yeah, just to say that the minister also re-emphasized that the deadline for this was 30th of June on this. So as we get closer to that date, we'll see how things turn out. But one of the points I wanted to make is, like, not all the telcos are cut from the same cloth. And one of them is Yes. And Yes has not only grabbed hold of the 5G mantle, they've not only started offering services, this week they offered something called the Infinite and Infinite Plus plans, right? And they claim this is 300% cheaper than the current 4G market standard. They're saying the average data charges per gigabyte will be 30 cents, and this was for access to 5G. And I don't know how much data you use in a month, but I use roughly on my mobile phone about a gigabyte a day, roughly, right? If I use it, I mean, if I watch videos and stuff like that. And that's still, when I do the calculations, based on this, it's still like a good bargain, right? It almost makes me want to change my telco provider. At least, and I suppose this is what Yes wants, at least take a closer look at what they're offering, right?
Yep.
Now, it'd be interesting whether while the other telcos are squabbling, whether Yes can really carve out a space for itself in this. And it'd be really, really interesting if they can get a foothold, a significant foothold, right? So when the other telcos do come to the table, do come to the market, they're already established here with what they're offering. People will have to then work around that.
Yes. No, Yes is because Yes is aggressive. Which is such a great plan, and they're trying to attract the early adopters, which is why then early adopters want to have 5G phones, right? And you've got a 36-month contract where you're going to give you a free 5G phone, although I have not seen to see what model, right? You could have a high-end phone or a middle or a lower tier phone, but still it's free. And I think they're making an aggressive play, which is why then, I know DNB CEO Raf Marshall said, right, he applauds them, and he's greatly encouraged, right, by what they're doing. So you now turn the heat on to the other four who are saying, hey, we want to do this first. And the heat will be turned on even more when Unify and Telecom Malaysia comes in. And I'm told that Telecom Malaysia is soon going to be announcing their plans also, right? So because they are now also saying, hey, Yes has got the jump on us, we want to quickly get into the game. So all this puts pressure on the big four, and they may then relent on their position or negotiate, right? And try to get their 51%. I think they are quite strong on that, but work with the timeline as to when they deserve to get that 51%. But all these things are happening in the 5G space, and in a good way, I think. So you want to move on to the next story, Dzof?
So our next story is about the KAF Investment Consortium Digital Bank, and they've announced their new CEO will be Rafizah Ghazali, who will be leaving Cradle to join KAF Investment Bank. There are many things in this article that it's on Digital News Asia, by the way. But the thing that I found most interesting, Karam, is that the applicants for the digital bank license had to say who their CEO was going to be during the application process, like a year before the licenses were going to be awarded, right? I mean, I found that surprising, but you said, well, okay, you understand why that's the case.
No, but because it was a surprise to me also until a consultant involved said that, the Bank Negara wanted that, because I think you don't want to have surprises, and they wanted to know how credible the leadership, the leadership pinnacle, right, of each digital bank was going to be, because you still got to get Bank Negara's approval. But somehow Bank Negara just wanted that upfront, and maybe this is what Hong Kong did. This is maybe what Singapore did. Remember, there are other countries which already rolled out the digital bank, and maybe Bank Negara took a leaf out from another market, right, and thought that's a good idea. And for these people also, then you start because all you got to make sure that your submissions are very serious. So maybe this brought it up also, right? You cannot just half-past bake, submission, and then if we are lucky, somehow if our lobbying helps us get it, then we'll get serious about this. The Bank Negara wanted very serious submissions, and of course, the leader of your organization has to be very serious, right? So all this work started beforehand, and they apparently agreed with Rafizah even before June of last year, and which is why then, by the way, you would have known this already, because remember, Grab announced the CEO, right? Their CEO choice literally less than 2 hours, 90 minutes after Bank Negara said, okay, we're giving Grab and Singtel, one is the consortium who got it. Impossible for you to quickly go and interview somebody and give them the job, right? So, all the work would have happened before then. Maybe you thought it happened 2-3 months before when they thought they were getting hot, but this actually happened way before. And, that's what Bank Negara wanted to do. And, nobody complained about it, right? So, which is fine. But the choice of, I know you're curious about the choice of Rafizah, so I hope you don't ask me the question you do want to ask me.
Well, maybe I ask a different question. It's like, what do you feel the market reaction is to her being appointed, right?
Oh, definitely there is surprise, right? Because she's left banking like many years ago. Remember, she was a CFO in an oil and gas company, right? And then she's now coming up to next week. I think Monday is the end of her term, the 30th of May, and there's 2 years of serving Cradle. So you add her banking, her career in the corporate career. She's probably been out of banking for like 6 years. But interesting, I think if you see the story, one of the consortium partners said that they actually wanted a non-traditional banker because they think a traditional banker will move too slow, right, to roll out the service and will not be able to create a startup culture. Very interesting. So KAF Investment and their consortium partners want a startup culture of their bank, which means that startup culture, for you not familiar, the key bedrock of a startup culture is that you work fast, you roll out your solution fast, and if you fail, nobody's going to hold an inquisition to say whose fault it was. You're not finding fault. You're having a feedback session to learn what went wrong from our market analysis, from our market, speaking to customers, and our own internal, ideation. And then you learn and you move on. And each failure is a stepping stone to get the next product better, out faster and quicker. Same thing, faster, quicker, and maybe better market fit. And they wanted us here with that mindset. I guess my only issue is that Rafizah has not run a startup before. She's worked in an agency that works with startups, but you get close to them and you appreciate and you realize what they're doing. And also one key thing with all these digital banks, they're going to be approaching, and they've already been approaching all the startups which have got a good database. Why do you want a company which has a database? Because you want to partner with them to say, we want to offer our services to your database. Because that if you're already with a startup, it means that you are already digitally inclined and in tune, right? To do, whether it's a B2B service or a B2C service, you're already inclined to be working with startup which are offering you a service. And here now that startup says, oh, by the way, I'm partnering with either A, B, C, D, or E digital bank, and they want to offer you microcredit, micro loans, micro savings. And you say, because you already have a relationship with that startup, it's easy for the startup to push you that product, right? Instead of the digital bank, all 5 digital banks crowding the market space, and with they're bombarding them with your TikTok videos, your YouTube videos, or your DNA videos. If they choose DNA to promote,
you're starting to sound like an old man.
No lah. Hey, I said DNA and pushing out your banner ads on DNA or doing your sponsored articles saying, hey, we are the best choice for you. They're going through a very logical road to the market, right? To get a customer, working with a brand that already the SMEs, the micro SMEs are working with. So I think so. In that sense, she's a phone call, right? Makes one phone call to all these startups. Hey, I want to partner with you, and they're gonna lend an ear to her. And in that sense, I think it's a very interesting approach what KAF is doing. And by the way, a third digital bank is about to announce. My sources tell me a CEO choice also, and that CEO is a traditional banker, just like the CEO that Grab and Singtel consortium, right? It's a traditional banker. And now this kind of makes it look like a traditional banker as a bad thing, man. So it's kind of interesting that now KAF has raised the bar for all the others, to say, hey, man, KAF has got it. They're creating this sexy theme around who they want as their CEO. So we'll see lah.
Well,
whatever this is, making the space so much more interesting that is a non-traditional banker they've hired as their CEO. And by the way, Bank Negara still needs to get official approval, right? So Bank Negara still has to give official approval, and you got to wait for that.
Okay, I was going to say, like, of all the five licensees, KAF is the one that's the most out of left field, right? So the fact that
well done to them. And they were also the biggest surprise. I think the market was the most surprised that they got a license, and they are now maybe proving their value and lending credits to Bank Negara, giving them betting on them. And by the way, as an exclusive, right? Rafizah actually WhatsApped me. I wanted to talk to her, but she sent me her response to why her motivation to move on. So I'm reading it to you. It's on my phone. My motivation to move on is to create impact through supporting the underserved and underbanked community through innovative digital, secure, and cost-effective financial product offerings. At the same time, I can continue to support the startups, right? Very interesting. Through collaboration via KAF's digital banking partnership platform. So there you go. Right? And then I also asked her, can you share with us what are your key achievements at Cradle? And she said that no comments on my achievement at Cradle. It's best to ask the market, let them evaluate, which is a very good answer, right? Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes.
Okay. Now,
for a moment there, I thought you were going to say
next. Let you take lead with this now. Blockchain, your favorite topic also.
I don't know if it's my favorite topic. I know a little bit about it. So no, this is the launch of something called 25 startups. Incidentally, if you try to Google the phrase 25 startups, you get all sorts of results.
Oh,
so you have to do like 25 startups Penang or 25 startups digital Penang to get this result.
Okay.
But it is, well, they claim to be Malaysia's first incubator specializing in blockchain and IoT.
So by the way, I thought that Grab would have been, I thought that MyEG and TS Wong would have been the first one. So, somebody has stolen their thunder.
Well, it depends how you define it, right? I mean, we know that, for example, I think Sunway has had like they've been touting that they've been doing research into this for a while. So, yeah. But the idea is that, well, this is part of Digital Penang's initiative. Obviously, this is part of trying to create, would you call it an incubator, like a hot incubator? And the idea is that whatever happens there hopefully supports the E&E industry on the island. I think I always say that Penang can be quite forward-thinking, quite proactive when it comes to this sort of thing. So if you're looking at it positively, there's a lot of potential being built up here. But I guess right now, there's not a lot of detail about what exactly it is, how exactly they're going to produce great stuff, right? It's like an idea that's just started.
And also, that they talk about wanting to get the startups are to be, it feels like to be based in Penang. So I hope that's not the case, because because it mentions that to develop the product locally in Penang. I think for Penang you can, but not for them to be based there. Because if you're a tech company or a startup, you cannot have your talent, right, all physically in one state, right? Does not make sense. But also,
boss, I thought you were orang Penang. I thought you would support this sort of thing, right?
No. Look, I'm for our startups to do. I want this to work, but you cannot make it work if it sounds like you're going to make people be based in Penang. Cannot lah, right? And there are people working for Penang startups who are not based in Penang. And the thing that strikes me about this, the VC firm that's supporting this, right? Karuna Koshi Ventura Capitals, and the chairperson Datin Rose Suryati Alan. It's not someone that we're familiar with, right? In the tech space, and also much more in the blockchain and IoT space. So I worry that they don't know this space, and they're getting maybe caught up with the sexiness of it and wanting to do something. And when things get hard, they will not be fully still supportive of this. So that's only my initial concerns there, because they're not known in this space. And she also talks about wanting to focus efforts to transform such innovations into profitable business models that can be commercialized. So there's a long way to go from commercializing things in the blockchain space. And if the meltdown that happened the last 2 weeks didn't caution you enough, I think it's too early to think about.
That one crypto, Karam. That one not blockchain. You uncle. I have something to sell you, by the way.
Blockchain proof of a lot of blockchain proof of concept also, right, are also in danger, because they're underpinned with crypto. So there is a ripple effect. So, or what do you call it, the domino effect. So let's see lah. But anyway, we'll just quickly move on to the last story, which is also another accelerator, right? I think this is actually the first in Southeast Asia. 1337 has launched the first ECF accelerator, and to strengthen equity crowdfunding. So what's happening is that like, let's say DNA wants to go on to a equity crowdfunding platform going to raise $1 million US. So you find a platform that thinks that we've got potential, and they can convince their base of investors that this is a great product for us to for us to be on and for you to invest in. But so, and they do a quick what do you call it, a fast track lah, right?
Boot camp. A boot camp, they call it.
Boot camp for you. Like, no, this is before, without this one. But that boot camp is like super accelerated. They teach you, okay, what you need to know in a very accelerated method. But here now, they're actually launching this this accelerator, right? Which is, I think, is it like 3 months, right? It's 3 months or 4 months where you go through a proper program, and they get you ready, right, to go onto this ECF platform. And of course, with 1337 doing it, when you finish, then you got to go on to Lead Capital, right, which is their ECF platform. They'll invest time and mentors and resources to get you ready. and then you go onto their platform, and chances are then there's a higher chance for you, to raise money from their platform. So which is I think it's a great thing to do. You're now raising the level of startups, or not only startup, even brick and mortar companies that want to go on to this ECF platform, right, to raise money from the market. So it's kind of interesting, and I like what's going on here.
Of course, the other thing is that if you are an SME interested in this, the good news is that there's the next cohort, cohort number 2, will be accepting applications for its June 2022 cohort.
Soon, man, go to DNA, check it out, click on the link at the end, right, and read it, right, and go and do your part first. They're not going to come looking for you. You got to go looking for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. So look, okay, that's all we have. I think it's been an interesting show again for us, talking nonstop as we can. Have a good, productive week ahead, and we're going to see you again next week, right, Dzof?
All right. Yes.